We're live. Take two.
Welcome.
Welcome, GSD leaders.
I think we just wanted to do that intro again.
That's it.
You just had to
exactly right, Amanda. I agree.
Welcome to the number one time suck. Today you have the A team from GSD Creative. I'm Angela Prophet, and I'm so excited to be here as your number one time suck hostess. Do y'all hear me echoing, or is that just me hearing myself echoing?
It's just
I do hear a little bit of echo. But you come back.
okay.
I'm like, what is happening? Oh my gosh. Okay, so we are so excited to be here today live. And this is the very first time that we're doing this where we're streaming it in, I think we're just streaming in two places, which is totally fine. It's all good. LinkedIn is not cooperating with us today. Apparently we've posted too much, but it's weird because we haven't posted it all today. At least I haven't. Have you, Amanda?
See, no echo. Thank you, Adriel and Kristen. 18. Hey, girl.
Yay! So you haven't posted? I don't know.
I haven't posted to LinkedIn. No, maybe MM did.
We'll have to figure it out. We'll have to ask our team. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We want to know, what is your number one time suck? Because today we're bringing you solutions. And we sent out an email to our email list in our community. And I've posted it in social media a few times. Like, tell us what your number one time suck is, because we hear constantly over and over, almost on a daily basis, if I talk to a person and they're like, there's just not enough time. I don't have time. And I thought it would be really fun for the A team to get on, because I don't think we've done anything for almost a year, which has been really sad because of the pandemic. So I'm like,
right.
What better time to hop on together and share some of our solutions that have used to suck our time away. And now we have implemented these solutions and things are different. So you get a different outcome. So thank you so much for joining us. Amanda, do you want to kick us off? And well, first, let's everybody introduce themselves. How about that? Take it away.
I think that'd be good. They're like, who are these people? Let's go with you.
Who are these women?
Well, I guess I'll go first since you just kind of introduced me.
Yes.
We know Angela. She is our founder and chief GSD queen. And I'm Amanda. I was told to put GSD queen in my description.
Because you are. You are.
That is who I am. And if you've ever emailed us, which is a little hint at what we're going to be talking about, you have probably been talking to me. And then Aja, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Aja Price, and I am part of the GSD team. Certainly not a queen, maybe like a queen in training or princess. That's it.
You're a princess.
That is it. And I am the founder of Notably Gray. So I'm super excited to be here with these two incredible women, and we're going to talk all about getting stuff done.
Yeah, we're not going to say SHIT because I don't want to get kicked off and reported for saying something bad. So, yes. So y'all.
Oh, do you want to go?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So to start with our first GSD time suck, we got a lot of answers back, but there was definitely a pattern that we found where people were saying their email inbox is their number one time suck. And we are here to help you with that.
As I put my head down, I'm like, yes.
Aja was sharing with us that this might be a category that she might need a little help with too.
Yes, myself. So yes, Angela, I know, has lots of insight on that. And please chat us up. Let us know what your best email hacks or what you do to get out of email jail, because I mean, it's horrible when you're there. But I know Angela is going to share with us a few tips and tricks that she has to better help with that.
Well, I want us to all share our tips because I could talk all day just on this, but I'll start off with the first thing, which is time blocking. And do not live in your email all day long and all night long. When I first started my business, it was constant. Just every time it came in, I would start to just respond. And it was almost like this instant message thing. But then it would be 10 o'clock at night and I hadn't gotten any work done at all during the day. And it was such a distraction. So that's the first thing is I know a lot of people that, what is it, the thing that you use, Aja? Pandora or something like that?
Yes. So the Pomodoro technique.
Yes.
And it is I find it to be very, very effective. But essentially, it's like you work for 30 minutes and towards accomplishing that one task, towards one task at a time. So I know they will speak about multitasking. I am not a great multitasker. But when you work towards one task, you get it done. So you work for 30 minutes, then you give yourself like a 5-minute break, and then you go back for 30 minutes. And essentially you do this for about 2 to 3 hours, and then you take a 30-minute break in between. But yes, that's how I get through the day.
So for example, if you're using that method, you could do a 30-minute block in the morning, a 30-minute block around lunch, and a 30-minute block in the evening. But other than outside of those windows that you have blocked on your calendar, don't look at your email. And I know if the bubbles stress you out, they will be there whenever you get to it. But time blocking, and then the number 2 thing is shut off your notifications.
Right.
And I know some of you may say, like, I don't want to do that. But it's such a time suck to have these dings and these things like flying in and out of your computer. And I promise you, they will be there when you get there. I even have my email notifications turned off in my notification center. So like on my phone or my notification center on my computer, you can set up all your notifications. And I don't even have them turned on because I'm going to look at email. Actually, I don't look at a ton of email. Amanda sends me, we call it the daily bullet. And it's like, here's a recap of what happened today. Or we all Marco Polo each other, and which is a free video texting app to let us know, like, hey, here's some of the things that you need to know. Here's some feedback that I need to get from you. So that is the second thing. Amanda, what are some other tools that we use for email?
So Bree had told us that one of her biggest email time sucks is actually deleting and unsubscribing from emails. And I think that we have a good tool to recommend to people on that. Unrollme.com.
And I do want to chime in here about something that I actually learned from both of y'all. And it was one of the biggest things that I'm noticing that I'm getting better at is not responding to emails that don't have question marks. And I know that sounds like so crazy, but like if the question mark is not there, I know we get into this like polite culture. Well, they send me an email and I got to respond. Well, like, why? If there's no question mark, right? Like, do you really need to respond? Because that has cut down my time significantly. So I don't know if Angela, you want to speak to that, but I know that is one thing that I'm very intentional about when I come across it.
Yeah, there's this whole email etiquette. Back when I was in healthcare in corporate America, we went through a whole email etiquette class where they, and a few things on that is, yes, exactly. If it doesn't have a question mark, I don't need a thank you. I don't need, I got it. Like, I don't need that. And so having internal communication with your team, but also externally with your clients, like letting them know, or even asking, do you need me to say, I got it, or thank you? Because if you don't have those healthy discussions between your team members and your clients, they may be thinking, did you get this or not? Which we don't rely on email to send back and forth important documents or sharing documents. That's why we use, everything goes in Dropbox, everything goes in Google Drive, and then all of our contracts, we use HelloSign. And so we teach our clients, I call it potty train your brain to be fun. And we teach them, and it just takes a few minutes. Email and texting is quick and easy, and it's so available, but it's a complete distraction from following some type of a process. So when you make sure that you're training your internal team as well as your clients, so everybody's on the same page, it completely starts to streamline a process so that you can get out of email jail. We tracked this one year. This was years ago when I first started doing this, when one of my mentors taught me, and we tracked it, and we saved like over 300 a day of emails that we would get just by sharing Dropbox, Google Drive, and then having our contracts and all the reminders on automation. And I think we used to use DocuSign, and then we switched to HelloSign. So just by implementing some of these tools, you can really get out of email jail. What's one of your things, Aja, that you do to stay out of email jail?
Definitely the question marks. That is 100% helped. I just learned maybe 2 days ago about email threading.
Oh God.
No.
Does that mean?
And you know what I bring to the table is just like me, the average person that just doesn't know what they don't know. But yeah, it was both of y'all at one point. But the threading, and I still honestly really don't understand it. And if you use Macmail, this is a thing. I can't even wrap my head around it. But as far as like what I do, I think for me, it's just kind of like the nature of the email and just being very intentional about what I'm going to like what needs a response and then just what doesn't. I don't have any, softwares or tips and tricks that I have outside of that, to be completely honest. But this is why we're all here, right? We are learning.
So threading, I gotta just say a few things about that. So yes, threading and Macmail.
You said that's a whole session by itself.
No, you can't just pass that over.
Yeah. It is, well, again, this is all personal preference. There are people out there that take care of their own inbox, which is fine. But if you have a team and you're delegating and you're all in there, which just from previous experience, it makes me sleep better at night to know that there's other people on my team that have access to everything that is needed if something were to happen, like knock on wood. My desk is wood. But threading can cause so much confusion, regardless if you are managing your own inbox or if you have someone else helping you do it. Mm-hmm. And so it organizes all of your conversations in one thread. So, and if you use Macmail, if you go up to view, I'm like doing this as I say it. And so you click on the mailbox and then you go up to view and in the bar, and it'll ask you organize by conversation. Now, if you choose that, which by the way is the default on Apple products, and this is why people just think that that's how it's supposed to be, but the arrows and the flags matter in my life, because things that have been answered have an arrow, and things that I need to do something with it, they're flagged. And so when things are condensed by and organized by conversation, it's super easy to miss something because you think that you have already responded to that, or you think you've already taken care of it. And so again, it's just like a personal preference. The other thing with Macmail is the other personal preference is your email comes loaded with like who it's from, a subject line, and then 2 additional lines of a preview of what the email is saying. I hate that. It clutters my inbox. It's like I'm going to open the damn thing anyway, the darn thing anyway. So I might as well just take away all those other lines, so it's not like cluttering my inbox. Now that's specifically with Macmail. I know G Suite and Gmail does something similar. The terms are probably a little bit different, but we use Macmail over here. All of our email addresses are aggregated into that one piece of software. It's just like Outlook. Same thing with Microsoft Outlook. What are some other tools, Amanda, that
Well, and something to keep in mind with what Angela just said, that it's the default on Mac, is that every time you update your computer to a new version of whatever the operating system is, you have to update those. So don't freak out if you update your computer and then you come back and you're like, why are all my emails threaded together? You just have to re-implement those changes. But to circle back to Bree's question about deleting and unsubscribing, as far as unsubscribing, well, I think we could talk on both of these. So I guess unsubscribing first, how would we recommend for people to do that?
Well, when you unsubscribe, they know you're a real person. And so there's slimy companies out there that sell your email when you unsubscribe from another email because they know you're real and that's a real email. So there's another tool that we would recommend instead of doing that. Tell them about it, Amanda.
So it's called unroll.me, I think.
Okay, hold on. So Unroll.
I see what you're talking about.
So Unroll is actually the app that rolls all your emails into one email that you actually want to keep.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then SaneBox and Black Hole is the one where you can drag it to Black Hole and then you never see it again.
Yeah. So you can unsubscribe from unroll.me. But again, like Angela said, you might be added to a list. But it gives you an opportunity it curates all of the subscription emails that you're getting and just gives you an opportunity to do it all in one place if you want to do that. Or like Angela was saying, we utilize SaneBox, which has a few different features like Sane Later and Sane Black Hole. We use Sane Later for things that we want to look at, but we want to look at them later. They're not like things that need to be in our immediate inbox. And then Sane Black Hole are things that we never want to see ever.
Yes, and Adriel and we have Adriel watching, Kristen is watching, and then Philip. So Philip, Adriel, and Kristen, tell us like what you're doing to organize all of your emails. But I love that. For some reason I thought that it's not SaneBox, the Unroll Me. Is it? It's. I thought they were like shutting down, or they said that they weren't going to offer the software anymore. That's
a good question. I updated mine probably about a month ago.
Okay.
You had to authenticate it through Google.
Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For security. If you have a Gmail,
okay,
which if you have G Suite, this kind of gets confusing too, because it's like if your company email is hosted through G Suite, and so whatever extension URL you own. So like, for example, gsdcreative.com, we have our email, connected GSD or whatever it is, contact, whatever, at gsdcreative.com, but it's hosted by G Suite. So technically it's like a Gmail, but we forward our URL. It's just more professional when you and from a branding purposes, it's just better to have your company URL rather than a Gmail, but it really is a G Suite email. So anything powered by Google, when they're updating their security features, you have to go and authenticate any third-party app that has access to your Gmail. And if it's a G Suite, which is your company email, then you have to go and tell, okay, it's okay for my Gmail to utilize all these different applications. So it's actually, it's kind of annoying sometimes. Like, I feel like they do it every 90 days, but it really is to keep our inboxes secure. And it's a pain in the butt when someone hacks into your email. And we had a client that happened to not too long ago. Do you remember, Amanda? And she's like, I wasn't getting any of your email. So this is how this started. This guy hacked into this girl, her company email. Okay. No, this is really important.
I know.
And
I'm listening.
Told the accountant to change her direct deposit to her paycheck every 2 weeks to go to a new account number. Well, the accountant rerouted it because she thought it came from one of their employees. And so then it was a holiday weekend. So she just thought that payroll didn't run right or something. Like, she didn't say anything about it, I think, for a few days, like a week. And then she noticed like she wasn't getting all, like, we would have a team call with them. And I said something like, oh, I emailed that to you over the weekend. And she's like, I didn't get an email from you. And Amanda and I are like checking our sent items. And I'm like, well, it says you opened it. And she's like, well, I didn't open it. Well, there was a hacker on the other side, like answering her emails and like typing things, which is like creepy. And so it's like, don't use the same password for everything. But that's a whole nother time suck day. Because
yes, and I do want to pause to say that as much as we love everyone joining us for GSD, it is raining very hard outside. So please, well, at least where I am. So if you need to find a safe place to still continue to GSD with us, We do. But yes, we are. That's crazy, Angela. And so, what wound up happening with that? Were they able to get that fixed, or how would you go about kind of securing your account so that doesn't happen again?
You should definitely update your password.
That's the first thing.
Two-factor authentication is a good thing too to add to that.
And here comes the rain. Whoa.
Was that Lily?
Yeah, and there's hail. Can y'all hear that? It's like really loud.
Yeah,
I'm not getting that yet, but this is our first live during severe weather. So welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Thank you all for being here. So we have Wendy watching, Kristen's watching, Philip is watching. Thank you all so much. You're braving it with us tonight. So I want to pause really quickly just to open up space in case anyone has any questions, or if you want to just share your insight on what you're doing to get out of email, Joe, and be more productive. Doesn't necessarily have to be with specifically email, but Angela, and Amanda, can you talk a little bit about what it would look like for someone, just from like a productivity standpoint, what it would look like initially purchasing software, right? So like, is it better to go with G Suite? I know we talk a lot about this and we've been using that language and verbiage, but I just want to make sure that everyone's understanding. Is it better to go to G Suite? I know some people use Zoho. Like from a productivity standpoint, what would you recommend for that small business owner so they don't become overwhelmed with all those softwares?
Well, G Suite, I believe for one email, it's $6 a month, I think. So extremely affordable. We decided not to use G Suite for some of our stuff because it really didn't operate the way we wanted it to operate. And you don't know these things until you get into it and you start using it. And then it's like, but I want it to do this. And then the customer service people at Google, they're like, you need to just find a different provider. We're like, okay.
The reason why we switched from Google was because we were getting more emails than Google could handle, which is funny to me.
That's right.
But I didn't know that there was a limit to how many emails Google could get, but that's why we switched to Zoho, and it's been a great experience. But yeah, we love Google for most everything but our email.
Yeah. We still have G Suite accounts for other things. So like, for example, here's another time hack suck that you could use, a solution that you could use. So we have multiple email addresses for the company. So we have one that goes to clients and vendors and things that need a response within 24 hours, just from a customer service perspective. That's just our policy. Then we have an email that is specifically for social media. So we know that if it's coming from a third party and somehow like LinkedIn and there's other places where there's bots that will go through and get your email. And so we know that if it's kind of spammy, if it goes to that specific email inbox, then we have different G Suites and emails mapped for very specific reasons. Also, I have an email first for trade shows, and like, I want the coupons, and I really want the coupons for my clients. So like, if we're shopping or if we're at market, I don't want to give everybody our client and our vendor email because we don't need their sales stuff all the time. So that would be like a same later thing. Right. And the cool thing about that product is if we've never received an email before, Same Later automatically puts it in that box, and then we'll go and check it. And then you have to train the email. G Suite kind of does the same thing, but it's a whole different level with SaneBox. And then they have Sane Reminders. So like, somebody responded and said that they're tired of like babysitting people, like waiting for them to get back to them. Right. And so Sane Reminders. And then there is another app called followupthen.com, and you can put that in blind copy. And so if they haven't responded to your email within, let's say, 4 days, if you need a response within 4 days or 5 days or 6 or 7 days or whatever, it will automatically send that person another email saying like, just following up, haven't heard from you. Now, where it screws you up is if they respond. This used to happen to us all the time. This is why I don't use it that much anymore. They would respond about all these things, but on a different thread, and then follow up. Then would still send them an email, and it's like, oh, I already responded to you on a different thread. So, whatever applications you're using or however you're hosting your email, like I would tell your clients like how you communicate and how you work so that they're not confused. I mean, we tell them we have a CRM system, we have a lot of automation tools hooked up. So if you get something and we've already talked about that, like just ignore it. Like it's fine. So, there's things like that happen too. So you have to pay for an email provider though. Like it's the safest way. I had a potential client text me the other day. He's a very dear friend of mine. And he's like, I want to do a course. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the name of it? Do you own the URL? And he's like, yes, it's hosted through GoDaddy. Like, make sure that your SSL is updated, which is the security certificate, expires every year. And he's like, well, should I host my email through GoDaddy? And I'm like, no, don't host it through. From a security standpoint, we've had things happen to clients, things hosted through GoDaddy. So I don't love it. And he was like, do you pay for your email to be hosted? And I'm like, yes, I pay for it. And it's okay. Like, it's the cost of doing business, but you're paying for space. And the more emails you get and the bigger the attachments are, it's going to take up your space. Another reason we don't email attachments and we use Dropbox links and Google Drive links and things that don't require us to send large images or large documents or PDFs or PowerPoint. That's the whole reason. It's not just to decrease your email, but also the storage space as well.
Right. That's great. So I know that, Amanda, there's been so many great things that people have submitted, and tell us a little bit more about what some other things that people have submitted too.
Yeah, so we had a question about when is the right time to delete emails. And I think that's a great question because I think a lot of us, I know I neglect my personal inbox and probably when it comes to productivity in your client inbox, you really, you want to make sure that it's clean. So our process is once we answer it, it gets deleted unless it's something important that we super need to go back to. Otherwise, we organize things in Dropbox and Google Docs. And that has really helped us avoid having to keep so many emails in our inbox. Right. We love to delete. It's a good feeling to be able to keep a clean inbox.
And also when you have the other key, this is so important, you guys, please, 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 so important. Make sure your emails are set up on your server. So you don't want to have local emails going to your phone or your computer, or you always want to set it up on the server. And so if your emails are living on the server, you can always go to your trash or you can go to your sent items, which Amanda and I do often. We're like, what did we say? We were clear. Like, how are we not clear? And so, we'll reference it every once in a while. And then probably about twice a year, we'll have to go in and actually empty the trash and sometimes empty the sent items because it fills up. And I think we literally pay for the most space that you can get. So you want to keep it cleaned out. The other thing too is like if you don't keep it cleaned out, and if you're a Mac user, you have that thing, the beach ball, like we call it the wheel of death because your computer's about to die. And so I'm not going to call out any names, but we've had it happen before. And this happened to me too. Okay. Like many years ago, y'all, I know this stuff from like going through the hard knocks of like learning this the hard way. So one morning I wake up and I go to look at my inbox, which I don't do that the first thing in the morning anymore, but my whole email app was straight gone, like gone. And I'm like, where did it go? So I'm searching for it on my phone, and then I call Apple support and they're like, well, how many emails, like what was the size of the inbox? I'm like, pretty large, probably a couple gigabytes. And they're like, well, your space on your phone doesn't have enough memory to download from the cloud to populate the email in your inbox. So it just straight removed the app. So you need to either go through your text messages and delete a bunch of photos and videos. Again, why I hate sending videos through text messages, and I use Marco Polo because I don't want the space taken up on my phone through text messages, which is the number one suck of space on your phone, or you're going to have to get a new phone. So I ended up getting a new phone, which that's a whole nother time suck thing too, is like just get a phone with a lot of space depending on what you're using it for. But has that happened to y'all?
The Wheel of Death, yes, that's like my everyday occurrence. But there's like several things, because this is a really great question, Amina, and I love this. And so I want to share with our audience several things that you all have taught me, because I am notorious for like keeping emails. Primarily, there's like a level of petty in myself. So I'm like, when someone asks me about something, they're like, oh, that's not what I said. I'm like, okay, well, let me go back to this email that you sent 10 years ago and pull it up. But but there's several things. So Amanda and Angela have taught me that if there are really important emails from people, make folders for them. So I do want to plug that in, that you all have shown me to do
on the server.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Folders on the server.
Okay. So folders, the folder for people, right? And you like keep their emails in them. So that's something that I have done. And then probably last year, just completely being transparent, is I didn't know that like once you delete it, like it really doesn't delete, I guess, your email. So like mine was still storing. Like I had emails from years and years and years and years and years. I don't know how to explain this, but I wasn't really deleting them. And so I didn't realize that me keeping all those emails in my inbox was like taking up so much space on my computer. So that's probably why I got the beach ball almost every single day. But can you all speak a little bit on that? Because I know for me, it's hard to, I guess, wrap my head around like the server and like the language that you're using. But I know that I had a lot of emails stored on my computer and I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And that's just a setting. So when you delete an email from your inbox, it has to go somewhere, right? When you throw something away, where does it go? It goes to the trash. So your trash in your email inbox works the same way. It sits there until you get rid of it. And I believe that ours, we actually have a trigger set. It's just a setting to delete the trash, I think every 30 days.
Right.
Yep.
If you don't set that up, then it's just going to keep piling up.
Yes. And they set that up for me, by the way. So I want to just give a little plug. But I didn't know that, right? You don't know what you don't know. Okay. Yes. So great question. I love that, Amanda.
And the server. So for example, if your email is hosted by G Suite, but you're pulling your company email or your Gmail into Outlook or Mac Mail, that is just, I don't even know what to call it, but it's just a platform that can host all your emails. So you don't have 15 tabs open for all the 15 different emails. So it's like I don't know, we have to come up with the word for it.
It's like where, I don't know, like a train station where all the trains meet.
Yeah. And then there's a platform 9 3/4.
Yeah. So it's hosting everything. And then, but I see people do this all the time where on the side of their Mac Mail or even in Outlook, I'll see all these folders. And I'm like, did you set your folders up through your Mac application or your Outlook application? And they're like, yeah. And so if you do that, all of your stuff is living on your machine. It's not being backed up. So if you go to the back end of your hosting, which is your server, like we would go to the back end of Zoho, you would go to the back end of G Suite, wherever your if your email is hosted in Microsoft, you would go to the back end of that, or trying to think, Network Solutions, GoDaddy, whatever, and then populate the folders there. And then when you go and open your Mac Mail, you'll see the folders populate. So when you drag emails to folders, they're living on the server. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And that's really great insight. Yes. Okay. So Amanda, what other questions do we have?
Well, my question is, why is it like tornadoing outside?
That too.
Look out my window. getting really loud. So everybody stay safe, reminder. Okay, so next question. I feel like we talked about this a bit, but Chazelle had touched on her number one time vacuum. I like that. Time suck. Is organizing her inbox. And I think that, we touched on that with, knowing when to delete your emails, knowing what emails you want in your immediate inbox and utilizing tools like Sane Later. Other ways to organize your inbox, Aja touched on folders.
Mm-hmm. And you all use a brilliant system. I just got to plug, and I know I keep plugging them, but these are just things that, like, once I learned it from the GSD queens, my friends, I just can't unlearn it. But the flagging system, right? Like, a lot of people don't utilize that, which I think is a great, really easy tool to use. And it's just a way, I mean, I don't know how you all use it, but as far as like in my business, I'm like, okay, red is something that I probably need to circle back on. Green is something that I've done, or if I have a question about something. So I definitely think that I know if you all want to speak more on the flagging system that you all have, but I find that to be a great resource for emails.
Yeah, we love the flag system. So it's funny because people will ask Angela and I, okay, what's your email address? And we'll give them one, and they'll be like, okay, but what's your email address? And we're like, we have one email, right. And that helps us we're all on the same page. We all communicate. Typically it is me in there answering people, but the flag system really helps us because when it's something that needs to be brought to her attention, I'll flag it so that she knows that's an email for her. So if you're running a process like that, flagging your emails is really great. They're called flags in MacMail. I feel like they're probably called other things in other email providers, but
yeah, they're called tags in Gmail, but they changed it. I think the most updated is tags. But the other thing I will say with the flags is, so when you go to your machine, or you're not like, I sound like a lawnmower machine or something, but when you go to your computer or your phone, it helps me. You can, what's the word? Sort. You can sort where all of your flagged emails come up, and then you can sort it by date. You can sort it in alphabetical order. And it's really easy for me because so I have 2, 4, 6, 8. So I have 9 email addresses coming into MacMail, and I want to prioritize. And usually I will sit down once a week and like go through all the flag stuff, because usually if it's flagged for me, it's not like a 5-minute thing. Like, it means I need to sit down, I need to take an hour, I need to open an editing software or design software, and it's work that I actually have to sit down and do. And so sometimes we'll even put it on the calendar and say, we need to go back and do this. And we try not to use email as like a to-do list, but sometimes it gets so busy. I mean, let's be honest, and we are not perfect. I'm like, just flag it, just flag it, just flag it. And then on Sundays, I'll go back when it's like quiet, and I can sit there and like go through it and work through those things. And then I can unflag things as they go. So it definitely helps us prioritize. I love flags.
Yes. Again, I had to plug that.
Great point, Aja. Let's see. Okay, so Damian said that, shout out Damian, said that.
Damn jam.
Oh my gosh.
I have to tell that story really quickly.
Oh my gosh.
So when my niece was not in college and she was still in high school, and I was homeschooling her, this was prior to the pandemic, but she was like my little assistant in my car, like reading me emails. And then she would reply, and like Amanda would be working on something else. And, we all just chip in and help each other. And I'm like, I'll drive, and then you read, and then you take notes. Okay, we're good. We're always GSDing on the go. And so I'm like, then I had to teach her how to do it. So I'm like, who's it from? What's the subject line? And then read the body of the email. Because she would just jump into the body of the email, and I'm like, whoa. Who's it from? And what's this about? And so she pulls up an email, and she's like, damn jam. And I'm like, what? And then she reads the subject. That's he's like our web team leader. And so I'm like, oh, you mean, I let her keep going because she was following the process. And I'm like, oh, you mean Damian. He's from, I can't remember where he's from.
He's from
Ecuador?
Recently. No, he's from, oh my gosh, where is he from? It's right on
another country. But yeah, so anyway, every time I see his name and like Hannah's around us, we're like, damn jam.
I wish that she was on here to say it because it's just like perfect when she says it.
What does Damian say?
But he said that definitely has to be the emails, small back and forth all the time. It's hard to focus on bigger projects when you have a lot of distractions with small tasks creeping in all the time. And I think that that is hard because it's not like the small things aren't important. They are important. But I think it's more about, like Angela said at the beginning of our live, is just time blocking and, you know, taking all those small little things into one big segment and just knocking it all out all at once. And then you're able to get those bigger projects done.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I would say too is that, again, like Aja mentioned, like it doesn't need a response if it doesn't have a question mark. The other thing is too, if you don't have all the information, don't go back and forth unless you have a client, which I'm thinking of one of our clients in particular. And she's like, can you just tell me like if you're working on it, like you're working on it, like, but not everybody needs that. Right. So it's like, for example, I can't remember if it was like the Prophet, like Marcus Lamone, or one of the, I can't remember. Somebody did like a case study on a business that was like, how many emails did it take just to schedule one meeting? And it's like, hey, do you want to meet on this day? And then it's like, sure. Okay, where do you want to meet? Okay, then there's back and forth. Where should I park? What suite number was it? And it's like 50 freaking emails to get one meeting. I mean, we've gotten a lot more the world has gotten a lot more efficient, but it's like answer all the questions. Any question that someone could potentially ask you, make sure you have all of the information to email it to them before you start the email, because that cuts down on the back and forth too. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Give all the information. And you can find a pattern in your email. If people are asking you questions back and forth, it's like, oh, I should have said that in my first email or my second email. The other thing I will say too that helped us really get rid of a lot of email was the same questions over and over and over. And then we do a blog on our website through WordPress. And then anytime someone would ask us something, we'll send them the link or say that's on the blog, like go search it on the blog. So you're sending people to your website, which is good for SEO, for search engine optimization. And also too, it's like you can use your blog as a library and it's actually giving you content. And when you put consistent content out there, people will see you as a leader, as an expert, as an educator, because you're helping educate consumers on what you do or what you offer.
Awesome. Yeah, that was one of the questions or comments, that scheduling meetings and everything seems like it needs to be a meeting, but really does everything need to be a meeting?
That's a good one. I'm sorry. I had to say that out loud. That is a good one and a valid point.
Like, thank you for this meeting that could have been an email. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Isn't that a TikTok?
It probably is. And maybe, you know, just to kind of add on to that question, just from like a productivity standpoint, like how can, as a business owner, we best gauge, you know, what really needs to be a meeting and what can be taken care of in a quick note, or I don't know. That in itself is a time suck, right? Like when you go to a meeting and then you realize like, hey, this could have very well been taken care of in a simple exchange of an email.
Yeah. And I think that being okay with asking, yes, I would love to meet with you. Can you please tell me what the purpose of the meeting would be? Or the subject of the meeting. And then that way you can know like how much time you need to block out for it, if you can answer it right away, or if it does require you to actually virtually meet or hopefully meet in person soon.
But ask more. Aja, you taught me this. Ask more questions.
Yeah.
Ask more questions. Just and I think sometimes people either they're too busy to actually ask the questions, and then or they think it's going to offend someone. So like I'll ask Amanda, but usually she's 10 steps ahead of me and she's already asked. And I'm like, well, why are we meeting? And it's like, well, this is the goal. This is the objective. Was that like a weather alert?
It was.
Oh my God. Why am I not? I think I have my phone in airplane mode over here, so this is why I'm not getting any notifications. I do this on purpose so I can focus. But now the sun's coming out, so that's really weird. That's like
Not a good thing.
no total tornado sign over there. But and I can't even remember what I was saying. I completely lost my train of thought.
You're talking about meetings.
Oh yeah, goals and objectives. And so just making sure that like there's goals and objectives to a meeting. So like we were talking about Calendly earlier. Like set up a Calendly account, but then make sure you set it up correctly. And it's not that easy to set, apparently, depending on if you have a lot of different calendars and you manage things for different people, including yourself, it can get very confusing. It really can. But we get so annoyed and then we get distracted and then we don't fix it. And then we just move on and we're like, oh, well, we'll just keep going back and forth through email. But if you would just take the time to figure it out and troubleshoot, watch a YouTube video, contact support, test it out, make sure it's working, it actually is really great because you don't have to do all the back and forth. But I will say, if you use a third party like Appointment Core, Calendly, or something like that, they don't tell you the system where it's like ask a lot of questions.
Right.
So like we have different links for different objectives. And then people go in and they choose the objective of what is the meeting. And then we have pre-populated questions and answers of, hey, when you come to this meeting, show up with these 3 things. How can we help you? Like we've gotten a lot better because I used to do everything has to be an hour. And now it's like, then we got into 45 minutes, then we've gotten to 30 minutes. And there's even some things that are done in 15 minutes. So it really teaches you to prioritize, cut out the BS. It's like, I don't need to talk about the weather. I don't need to know how everybody's doing. How can I help you? Let me know. And just be a little bit more to the point so that you are making sure that you're taking the most advantage that you can, not only of your own time, but the person you're talking to, honoring their time as well.
I think that's all great. And wow, this has been so insightful all hour. And we talked a lot about great email tools and softwares and processes and all these wonderful things. And so I feel like next time part of productivity is just like very high level boundaries, right? And like, how do you set those boundaries? And you do that with the processes. So I'm really excited to explore that next time. But Angela, I want you to share with us as we wrap up a little bit about GSD and what GSD Academy is, and how can our viewers and audience participants, take part in that so they can be on a more productive road.
Yeah, so we do have an online course called GSD Academy that helps you get stuff done. And it is an 8-week online course. The enrollment is actually closed because we have our winter course going on right now. And then we have a springtime course coming up in late April. So we'll definitely be letting you guys know about that. But yes, it's an online course. And then depending on who signs up first, like when we open enrollment again, we do have a third-party app where we do video Q&A weekly to get clarifications and however we can help support our community to make sure that they understand all of these different ideas, because it's a lot of information. But the thing is, y'all, this doesn't happen overnight. In fact, one goal a month is really best practices, because if you try to do too much in like a really quick time span, you're not going to create that habit that you really need. I think it's like 21 days to create a habit or something like that. Maybe longer.
I think it is 21 days.
Yeah, something like that. Oh, a few weeks. So it's like, don't try to do it all, but it's great to go through the information and then prioritize it based on your needs and what you're needing in your business at that time to be successful. And so we'll definitely let you guys know when that's going to open up. But we're also going to be back next Thursday at the same time, 4 p.m. Central Time, answering your questions, because we've got a lot more questions. Next week, we're going to talk about the number 2 time suck. Number 1 was email. Number 2 is social media scrolling. And I'll give you a hint. You should be creating content instead of scrolling too much. So we'll leave it at that. And then if you guys have more questions about the number one time suck or letting us know, or if you want tips or tools, we have a text number. Amanda, if you can let them know, and you can text me.
Yes. I cannot put it in the chat. I don't know.
I will put it in the chat. And what's that number?
Yes, let me get it to you.
615.
Contact us with your questions.
615-527-8755.
615. Y'all know my fingers don't go too fast. 527.
Yes, 8755. We need to create like a number jingle.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This has been amazing, and I'm so excited to join next week. And as we continue the conversation about getting stuff done. See how I call myself really quickly. But no, we appreciate you all being here so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a very productive day and a GST week, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye, y'all.
Bye.